All right, so this video is talking about how drugs influence consciousness. So first of all, keep in mind that there is a difference between a dependence and addiction. So tolerance is first what develops. So tolerance is when you develops when you become so accustomed to a dosage of a drug that you actually need more of that drug to get the same high. This, for example, would be, you could use this as, for example, alcohol. And you could talk about, hey, in order to get drunk, it used to be I only needed, 2 beers, and now I need a whole, case. But it also can deal with, for example, prescription medication. So sometimes, for example, somebody may be taking, for example, an antidepressant. And so they have start off with a small dosage. And as their body becomes accustomed to that antidepressant, they need to be able to up the dosage to be able to actually have any effect. So a tolerance doesn't necessarily have to be negative, right? So it could be something fairly good, like an antidepressant. So keep in mind, it just means that you need a higher dosage. Now, there are two types of dependence. The first type of dependence is what we call a physical dependence. And this is going to be when you physiologically your body needs that drug. And without that drug, you will have withdrawal symptoms if you quit. So in other words, what happens is that once you continue to take the drug over time, your body becomes accustomed to it. And so as a result, your body becomes accustomed to it, is used to it, and it's expecting it. And so as a result, in order to function, you need that drug. And so, for example, like my picture here is that, I have somebody who maybe has developed a physical dependence on alcohol. Okay, well, what that means is that their body literally needs alcohol. And when somebody who is an alcoholic goes through withdrawal symptoms, they sometimes can look like they're drunk. And it looks like they're drunk. They're not actually drunk, but they get the shakes. They may have slurred speech. They may have, problems with concentration. They have severe headaches. But really, in reality, what's happening is that their body is craving that drug. Their body needs that drug. So that's a physical dependence. On the flip side, you can talk about a psychological dependence. So psychological dependence is when you feel like you need the drug to be able to deal with everyday life, to get rid of those psychological problems. So, I have problems where, hey, maybe, you're having problems with your parents and, geez, they just won't get off my case. I'm stressed about school. Well, geez, in order to be able to go to school, I have to take a drink or I have to take that hit. That's a psychological dependence. Keep in mind that you could be psychologically dependent and physically dependent on something. Psychological dependence is kind of a lot more scary just because of the fact that physical dependence your body needs, but psychological dependence is your mind needs it. And so even if you break that physical dependence, you really have to continue to work at that psychological dependence where you're trying to convince yourself that you really don't need that drug to be able to get through the day. And then addiction is this idea that you have this craving for the drug despite its consequences. So you could develop a psychological dependence on it or a physical dependence on it, but in theory, you're not necessarily having an addiction until all of a sudden, despite the consequences, you're still craving that drug. So, hey, I know that maybe I have a psychological dependence, but I'm working around that. But addiction is going to be where it's interrupting your daily life, right? You cannot continue your daily life because you need that drug. So that's more what addiction is about. All right. The rest of it, when we get into stimulants and depressants and hallucinogens, we'll take a look at those. I have a project that we do with that. But those are the basics as far as general addiction and tolerance and dependence. All right, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks, guys.